All right. Welcome to an episode of Cliff's Notes podcast. We are live at ReMA. How's everybody doing out there? Woohoo!
Yeah.
Did you lose any money last night, Victor?
I won money last night.
You won money. How much are you up?
I'm up about $800.
Come on, Daddy.
I'm up for about a steak tonight.
Oh, are you buying?
Maybe.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll keep that in mind. Furkhat, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Yeah.
All right.
Enjoying the show.
It's good to have you guys in Vegas. I want to give a shout out to ReMA for all the hard work they're doing and for providing a platform for Cliff's Notes.
Yes.
Yeah, they're doing a great job and having F1 in partnership. I mean, the car up there, the car in the booth, right?
Very cool.
Super cool. Super cool. Good times. Well, it's good to be in Vegas, and on Cliff's Notes, we like to talk about things that are notable. And I think we got a pretty big announcement to make that's fairly notable, yeah?
Yes, I think so.
So we got a project that is a partnership for us that we're going to be working on that we're pretty excited to announce here at ReMA, and it's called Project 74. Project 74 is a partnership that we're working on. Victor, you're the owner and president of the Chem-Met company.
That's right.
Furkhat, you are the owner of Syram Corporation, and we are partnering together with Tungco and the Urban Mining Initiative for Project 74.
Yep.
Furkhat, why 74?
Oh yeah.
It's a little
you asked me yesterday.
a little bit of 74 inside joke, right?
Yeah, 74. Periodic number of the tungsten.
All right, so
There
74, in case you didn't know, that is the periodic number for tungsten on the periodic table. I was surprised that was lost on you.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Too much focused on the price.
Too much focused on the prize, right?
Yeah.
Victor, I see you've already partook in a little bit of the brown water.
That's right. It's afternoon, so why not, right? You
got
can't
a
drink
little-
all day if you don't start in the morning.
That's right. Is it you can't drink all day or you can't be drunk all day?
Yeah, I think you
If
can't
don't-
drink all day.
I mean, we are in Vegas,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
All right, so I'm gonna get
I
with you
appreciate
just a little
not
bit
making
here.
me not
Guys,
drink
go
alone.
ahead.
Yeah, you don't want to drink alone. That's
No.
a bad recipe for disaster. So let's talk about Project 74 just a little bit.
Yeah.
So 74, we said that stands for tungsten. Maybe some people know that. Maybe they don't. But what's the main initiative that we're working on here?
Well, we're resourcing tungsten scrap.
All right.
Yeah. And turn it into valuable chemicals, tungsten units.
So
Useful units.
tungsten's got a lot of attention here lately
Yeah,
because
that's right.
if you look at all of the metals, it is on a meteoric or parabolic rise. I mean, who would have thought? Victor, your dad was in the business forever. My
For a
dad's
long
been in the
time.
business forever. Who would
Yeah.
have thought that we would see the value of the metal that we're seeing
Yeah,
today,
in the last 8 months, going up 5 times. It's insane.
So, Furkhat, where do we think some of that is coming from as far as what is the pressure and the initiative? What is the reason behind this rise in tungsten pricing?
I think historically maybe tungsten price was undervalued actually.
Undervalued.
Yeah, for a very long time. And the last 1 year, geopolitical become a trigger. Then demand, supply was under the pressure last few years, finally come to the one point, then shortage happened in the market. And that started with the China domestically, then spread to the world. And after Chinese restriction, that escalated this market upward. I think that's the major reason.
Yeah, it's just a function of supply and demand. I mean, you've got so little supply and demand is growing, so that's what it is.
Yeah, so I mean, we see tungsten as it's a supply-driven scale of economy, right? It's a limit. I mean, the reason why it's critical is because it's limited.
That's right.
Very limited, yeah.
It's limited and it's critical to our everyday use. So let's just take a second here and we can nerd out a little bit on the details of where is tungsten used, because I have people will come up to me and they'll ask, hey, is tungsten in this or is tungsten in that? It's actually not in a lot of what we use, but it goes into the manufacturing. So let's unpack that just a little bit.
Yeah.
Victor?
Well, tool steels, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it could be tool steels,
Yeah,
car manufacturing. Yeah.
Yeah, into making things, hardening steels. So we need tungsten to make things.
Yeah, in general, tool steels maybe 70-80% of the market application. And also, if you want to explain the recent price change, maybe you have to focus a little bit more on the defense application.
Okay.
That's maybe 20-30% of the whole demand.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really talk about today's economy without talking about defense. There are a few major conflicts going on.
Yeah.
So tungsten is used. I think one of the coolest things I ever saw that I first remembered, like, oh my God, that is a very cool tungsten piece. It was a tank penetrator.
Yeah.
And it was about the size of that water bottle.
I've got
there.
a few of them sitting on my desk in my office. Yeah.
And they probably weigh what, about 10 to 12 pounds a piece?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so that is a projectile that tanks would shoot at each other.
And just rip them to shreds.
For armor penetration. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so defense is a big one. I think another one that is could be of interest with the rise of AI. We're at the ReMA event, and there's a lot of conversation about AI and technology. And we don't have the chips and everything that we have without tungsten. Yeah. So tungsten goes into the creation of those chips in a very high-tech manner and very lightweight, but whenever you're talking about the scale that we're dealing with on AI today, there's no way that we have that production without tungsten. So there is added demand. In fact, if you look at, if you're interested, you can just Google this or AI, but it looks like the CAGR rate for tungsten over the next 5 to 6 years is somewhere in the low range of 4% and the high range of 7 to 8. Now, if you were a startup, you'd be like, yeah, no, that performance is complete shit. I'm not interested in that. But we're not in a startup. We're in a very, very mature. Tungsten's been around for over 100 years. So to have that kind of growth right now is pretty substantial. Yes. So for us in our Project 74, one of the goals that we're looking at is reshoring for the industrial and the defense base, right? So let's just talk about when we say reshore, that might be self-explanatory, but maybe not. So Furkhat, when we're saying reshoring, what are we trying to do there?
Especially recent years, if you look at last 10 years, there's a 5-6 tungsten group companies in the world. They began to circle all material within the group. So there's a less material available in the free market. And we used to trade APT a lot, like 10,000 to 20,000 tons. Now, maybe major trading item become a scrap and recycling. And that portion, there is an unknown portion in the US still. You may know better than me. They are shipping out from the US to the Asia or the other country, then portion coming back as a processed material, portion not.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is US lack of processing capability over there. So what we try to do is use existing resource to add some processing capability and serve the market here.
Yeah, so when you're saying we have a little bit of a capacity issue, let's hang out there for just a second, because all scrap is not created equal. It doesn't matter if you're talking copper, stainless, tungsten, moly, whatever. It's all a little bit different. So if we all of a sudden said, hey, well, let's just keep all of the tungsten scrap in the United States, would we even have the capacity to be able to handle all that?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. And some of the...
How about the capacity to handle the high quality scrap, all the high quality scrap?
I personally don't think we have capacity to even handle the good material.
Okay.
Much less the bad material.
Right.
Because...
Even with no active tungsten mines in this country.
Correct, because one of the misunderstandings, like you'll hear somebody say, well, I only buy tungsten virgin material.
Right.
That's pretty tough.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in the West, because the only mines that we have really active in the West come out of Bolivia,
right,
Portugal, and Spain. And yeah, there's some volume there, but to be able to say, oh, okay, well, my material is only from primary coming out of the ground, that's a pretty tough lift, because as Furkhat mentioned, you only have a handful of producers in the
Right.
West, and they're largely running on scrap.
Well, Cliff, you know this very well, that my industry making tungsten chemicals is primarily based on virgin material. It's very, very difficult, especially now, increasingly difficult to get virgin material.
So is there in your space, Victor, is there a slot where you can use scrap,
There
or
is.
you do have to be primary only?
No, it can be scrap derived. It's just got to be low impurities, clean scrap, which is available.
Yep.
Also, based on the price, demand, supply situation, a lot of manufacturers rebalance the primary material and the secondary material. And when demand is low, a lot of more secondary material go outside of the US.
Okay.
When it's tightly, less go out. But in my estimation, at least maybe 10 to 20% of the recycled material at this moment going out from US to the other countries, and maybe only half of them, less than half of them coming back.
Okay.
So we are targeting this portion of the resource here.
Cliff, question.
Okay.
People are talking about scrap ban.
Okay.
If there was processing capability for all the scrap in the United States to stay in the United States, would the scrap ban be a good thing?
It would make more sense.
Yeah.
It would make more sense. But today what we experience is we don't have the capacity, even if we push the stop button.
Right.
And DJT signs and says, no more scrap going anywhere.
Yeah. That's just how he sounds. Yeah.
It's just we've got scrap here.
Yeah.
We don't have the ability. So Project 74, what we're trying to do is actually expand the scrap production,
Right.
expand the capacity, so that if indeed that does happen, or it doesn't matter if it doesn't happen, then what we're doing is we have the capacity, as Furkhat's mentioning, to be able to take these units that are leaving. That's where the reshore comes into play. We have these units that are leaving that now we can say, okay, we have the capacity, and hopefully it's not just us. Hopefully there are other players that come to the table, because for us to really be critically independent, we can't just do one or two projects. We need mines to come online. We need projects like Project 74 to be stood up, so that we are making sure that we're in control of our own destiny to a degree of what's going on with these materials. Because right now, again, we're kind of flying over the fact that there is zero tungsten primary production in the US. So when somebody says, hey, I want a ban, on the surface, if you don't understand the logistics of the supply chain,
good.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But when you get into it and you're like, well, that's not really going to do anything for us, because we can't do anything with that material. All that's going to do is a complete disruption of the supply chain.
Yeah.
And
Pricing and all that.
pricing, the whole deal. As Furkhat mentioned, we do have materials that leave, but often they do come back. One of the other things that we're not even really talking about is that we need deregulation. So when we talk about, okay, let's stand up a mine, or let's stand up a Project 74, am I advocating for ourselves that we need less regulation? Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I am advocating for that.
Yeah.
Because that's where the other nations beat us to the finish line, is because they're less regular. We're not saying that you need to throw rules to the wayside or just not consider the environment or do anything like that. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah,
what we're
we've
saying
got one of the most friendly administrations to mining and manufacturing ever, and it's still not enough.
Yeah, so what we're saying is hey, can we just work together to solve this problem and not go through 1,000 checklists?
Right.
You got to have 1,000 yeses, and every 1,000 yeses has 1,000 answers with it.
Yeah.
It's the red tape. You're eventually going to get there,
Yeah.
but that's why it's taking us 10 years to stand up a tungsten mine, and people in the Far East can stand up a tungsten mine in 6 months.
That's right.
So that's where I think, and to answer your question about where does the tungsten ban stand for me, or a scrap ban,
Yep.
where does that stand?
Gotcha.
That's where that's at for me.
All righty.
Let's talk about the criticality. Maybe we've touched on that just a little bit, of tungsten, but let's just talk about critical raw materials in general. Is moly on the list?
No.
So nickel's on, I mean, we are at a scrap convention.
Right.
So nickel is on the list, copper is on the list.
Cobalt, right.
Yeah. So let's just talk about where that's at, the attention that that's getting now. I mean, there's a lot of attention around rare earths and the battery process, but let's just talk about it at large. What does it mean for a metal or an element to be critical?
In my opinions, like for example, in case of tungsten, the geopolitically, they are concentrated in few countries on the supply. That's the problem for the whole market. For example, tungsten is 70-80% supplied from China. So if you see the whole world, that's a very unbalanced thing. So what we do is we increase our supply capability in the West.
Okay. Victor, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, you're probably the best person to answer that question.
Oh, that's a good dodge. Go ahead and pull on that bottle a little bit while I'm answering this question for you. I'm answering my own question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I think about the criticality of it, it's just what does it's so critical to everyday life.
Yeah, of course.
That if it gets to a level of massive market disruption, it can really impact the way we live. So all of those elements that are on there, and actually the U.S. government has solidified, I believe it's 60 that we have right now.
Yeah.
And if you haven't heard about the vault, no matter where you're at politically, from a J.D. Vance or Trump perspective, you need to do a little bit of R&D on the vault, because if you're in the metals world, that's going to impact all of us, from pricing floors to regulation. It's not going to make it less regulated. It's going to actually make it more regulated. So definitely check out the vault. We haven't mentioned sodium tungstate.
That's right.
Now, a lot of people are talking about ammonium paratungstate. We could do a quiz with the audience and be like, hey, who knows what ammonium paratungstate is? But since our project is revolving around sodium tungstate, let's be a little selfish and talk about sodium tungstate.
Sure.
So, Victor, we were talking about sodium last night at dinner. We were talking about sodium tungstate. What was the other thing?
Dihydrate.
Dihydrate.
That's right.
Debbie had a huge question about that, and I'm like, okay, we've talked about ST, but this is the first time I've heard about the D in it. So, give us a little rundown on what that is.
Is the two H2Os on the end.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, I failed chemistry. So yeah. That was one of my father's main disappointments, is my lack of interest or effort in chemistry.
So the comes down to shelf life. That's what we're looking for. The longest shelf life of tungsten units for storage for whatever purpose.
That's what we're shooting for.
That's what we're shooting for.
But let's talk about what is it. Like, so we're at a scrap convention.
Yeah.
So if we're like, hey guys, we're doing sodium tungstate, how many people are going to be like, yep, I know what that guy's talking about?
Yeah.
So let's just,
okay.
We're on Cliff's Notes. So like when I never read Romeo and Juliet, but I did read the Cliff's Notes version of it. So give us the Cliff's Notes of the chemistry version of sodium tungstate.
Sodium tungstate, Na2WO04 plus two H2Os. That's the chemical formula.
That feels like Romeo and Juliet more than,
you want the Cliff's Notes.
I need more Cliff's Notes,
So it's a crystal. It's a crystalline, free-flowing chemical, white in color, that is 70% WO3.
Okay. So
on average.
Where is it? We don't necessarily have to talk about the value chain of it, but let's talk about where is that at in making tungsten. So if that bottle right there was tungsten, before we even get to a finished part, where does sodium tungstate fit in the spectrum?
Well, that'd be from scrap to sodium tungstate, then to WO3 to powder to metal.
So would we still call that an intermediate?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's not a metal powder that we would be making.
No, it's a chemical
powder.
Chemical powder.
So it's a chemical powder, but it's critical in the production of getting to that. If that were a tungsten bottle or the tank penetrator that we were talking about,
absolutely,
it's critical to getting it there.
It's a necessary step. Yes, for sure.
At the moment, right now, based on the existing technology, I think almost 100% tungsten products have to go through the process to be sodium tungsten, then go to end up with the products.
Yeah, that's a great point, Furkhat. So what we're saying is, at some point in its life, a tungsten molecule is going to become sodium tungstate.
Sodium
That's right.
tungstate.
Whether it starts out as a primary or a secondary, it's going to get to sodium tungstate.
All the tungsten scrap that we'd be using was sodium tungstate at some point.
At some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Yeah. So when we're talking about circular economy
Yeah.
and reshoring everything, what we want to do right now with Project 74 is we want to take units that are twofold. We don't have capacity to be able to produce it, but some of the major producers also don't. It's not that they don't have the ability, but let's just say they're not set up to deal with some of the lower grade type units that we're talking about, right? So we're taking those units, Furkhat, that you mentioned,
Yes.
and we will reshore those,
Yep.
and we will turn them into a sodium tungstate, and then that sodium tungstate can be used by all of the major producers in the West.
Any
Yeah.
end user, yeah.
Right.
That's right.
So in general, just to kind of put a cap on everything, we're not necessarily saying we're for or against this, but what we are saying is we are very much serious about keeping tungsten units in the United States.
Yes.
That's right.
Very, very serious
Right.
about that.
So we increase sodium tungsten production capacity in the US by using the existing raw material in the US, and we supply the existing customer in the US.
It's a win, right?
That's a win all the way around.
It's a dead win.
Absolutely.
So what we're hoping for in the coming years with Project 74 is that we work with these partners that you're mentioning. We're able to provide them the raw material that was previously leaving America, but staying now.
Yeah.
We want it to stay, but we set up the capacity for that to be able to be processed. At the same time, we support mines being stood up, right? I think
of course.
Victor, you mentioned you have to have that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to have tungsten mines in the States.
So that would how would that help you? What are some of the challenges that you're
Well,
facing right now with the squeeze?
Tariffs.
So we got tariffs, but you also have export restrictions out of
restrictions.
China.
Yeah, you can't get, it's very, very difficult. There's a couple places in the world you can get virgin tungsten right now into the States. And it's most of it's not allowed, which goes back to the pricing jumps that we've seen. When you have almost 90% of the world's tungsten not allowed to leave, enter the United States, puts a big squeeze.
Yeah,
And demand going up at the same time.
yeah, and so the market is definitely feeling the pain of that, and that's
Absolutely.
going to eventually have a trickle down effect to the consumer.
For sure.
We were in Las Vegas about a month ago at ConAg Expo.
Yeah.
And that's in the construction and agriculture world, and we were talking about various areas where where tungsten carbide is used, and it's used heavily in mining and construction. Oh, and we did a Cliff Notes pod while we were there. I would say over half of the guests that were on the pod said that they are already looking for substitution products for tungsten.
I don't know that they exist.
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Very difficult. Very small portion of the tungsten chemical can be replaced by the molybdenum, and a very small portion, maybe tungsten carbide, can be replaced by the ceramics things, but I think 90% cannot be replaced because of the tungsten very unique character as a metal.
Furkhat, what could be a replacement for tungsten carbide?
Ceramic,
Ceramics.
man-made diamond.
Right.
Yeah, but it's maybe
With the heat withstanding.
it's still very weak on other aspects.
Right.
But we can replace certain portion, very little portion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you search that, if you Gemini that, Gemini will tell you that there's other things like shielding.
Yeah.
So if you're ever in TSA waiting in line,
Yeah.
and you see a machine there, most of those machines have tungsten inside of them because the shielding is replacing lead.
That's right.
I think certain things like that are irreplaceable. But I literally, Furkhat, we had a customer tell us, they were like, look, we would rather just go with steel
And just replace the part every.
and just replace the part more.
Really.
So again, it's not. You can't say that it's. I mean, it's no more replaceable than can I turn this water into bourbon? It's not possible. The water's not going to do for me what the bourbon does. You feel me down there, Victor?
I feel you.
It's not. You can't swap it. But they're saying I don't care what it's going to do because the cost has become so high. I'm willing to substitute and just change the part out. So I do think as an industry, as a tungsten industry, that's something we need to be concerned about.
Yeah.
That we could price ourselves out of viability for certain areas. Now that doesn't mean you're going to find a part. You asked him what's going to replace it. I'm not arguing that it's replaceable.
Yeah.
What I'm arguing is that all of a sudden now it's value replaceable. It's what we would say it's good enough. Like I don't have to have a Ferrari. We won't mention some car brands. Maybe that's bad because we got some car guys here for ReMA. But I don't have to have this level. I could take a lower level.
Yeah.
Right. It would be just good enough. So that's the concern that I have. I mean, but for your area, Victor, you're saying, hey, I can't get that material.
Right.
Is there a replacement for you or no?
There's not when you're talking about pure, very, very low impurities. There's not. I mean, you can't use off-the-shelf scrap. Just like I was going to mention the aerospace industry.
Okay.
The aerospace industry can't use scrap. They need pure tungsten.
Are you sure about that?
Well, for most of them, not all of them.
I want to add one point for the topic we are talking about, replacement. We have to look at, there is a lot of existing possibility or existing things. Tungsten actually replacing other materials. I give you an example. Just a few years ago, there is no tungsten wire for cutting the silicon ingot.
Okay.
Right now, tungsten wire totally replaced the stainless wire, and that demand is 10,000 tons a year.
Okay. So and you're talking about for what product again? The wire is for cutting what?
Solar panel for the silicon ingot, you have to cut that slices.
Yep.
They used to use stainless wire. Now 100% use tungsten wire. Way efficient, way long lasting, way thinner.
So let me steel man this just a little bit. So is there a chance though, I know that that's the new technology, is there a chance that tungsten becomes so expensive that they would return to the stainless wire?
I think it depends on how much tungsten and the total cost.
Okay.
Still, like even in the cutting tool industry, if you see the tungsten unit price in the total unit price of the cutting tools, still is less than 5%. So less than 5% cost increase a lot, mean almost nothing to the total cost.
So what we're saying is, while it could be replaced in certain areas, this CAGR growth that we expect to see of 5 to 8% over the next 5 to 6 years, we feel like that's pretty solid, irregardless of what happens with the price.
That's right.
And I mentioned a little bit like defense. Every drone, you have to use tungsten.
Every drone has to use tungsten.
From few hundred gram to few kilogram.
Okay.
And a few years ago, we never see drone in anywhere. Now everything.
Everywhere.
Everywhere you're using drone.
Yeah.
So I think there's a solid demand growth for tungsten.
Okay. So what it sounds like is Project 74 has a pretty bright future.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. So boys, just to kind of put a cap on it, it's exciting that we're celebrating the announcement and the launch of Project 74. We're going to be making sodium tungstate for the United States industrial base.
Yes.
While we're keeping material in the United States, making sure that it's not leaving here, going other places, but we're using it. I think it would make DJT proud.
Sir, super exciting stuff. Absolutely.
All right, DJT, if you're listening, give us a shout out on X. Yeah, but this has been another episode of Cliff's Notes. Furkhat, Victor, thanks for the partnership.
Thank you.
Excited about Project 74. We'll see you next time.
Yep.
See you next time.
Notes, Cliff's Notes, Cliff's Notes.